Pinatuni. So you are now joining our religious observance for the Unduvap full moon Poi day. As you have noticed, we have a lineup of program. So after our observance of 8 precepts, we will do Buddha Puja. Following that, we will 9:30 we have Ajahn Sujan for meditation. So an alteration of the time, 9:30. So please do join us at 9:30 for the program. So the Unduvap full moon Poi day is quite significant for Sri Lankan Buddhists, but also for the Buddhists worldwide, because of the significance of the arrival of the branch of the Bodhi tree from Buddha Gaya to Sri Lanka. And it is recorded the ancient sapling or the branch of the Bodhi tree is still alive, perhaps one of the oldest tree or branch in Sri Lanka. So it is quite a significant full moon day, the exact tree under which the Buddha or ascetic Gautama attained enlightenment, and the arrival of the Bodhi tree with the arrival of Sangamitta Theri or Arahant Sangamitta to Sri Lanka, and the establishment of the order of bhikkhunis or nuns in Sri Lanka. So therefore the full moon day is also known as Sangamitta full moon day, to signify the freedom of enlightenment for women as well, or to engage in religious order observance for women in Sri Lanka when the availability of the order of nuns was made in Sri Lanka by the arrival of Sangamitta Theri. So our observance will begin with the administration or observation of the observance of the 8 precepts. Please say Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa 3 times. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Sanghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Sanghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami Adinna dana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami Abrahmacharya veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami Musavada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami Surameraya majjapama datthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami Vikala bhojana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami Nacca gita vadita visuka dassana Mala gandha vilepana dharana mandana vibhusanatthana Veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami Uccasayana mahasayana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami Tisaranena saddhing atthanga uposata silang dhammang Sadhukang surakkitang katva Appamadena sampade tabbang So if you have just joined us, you have just started to observe our religious observance organized by the London Mindfulness Meditation Center. We go live on Facebook and YouTube channel lmmc.online. So if you want your family or friends to participate in the day's religious observance, please do share our link so that they can participate. There is a slight change in the schedule, so Ajahn Sujan will join us at 9:30 with meditation, unlike as advertised at 10 o'clock. So at 9:30 he will join us. And secondly, do bear with technical problems that do arise. As you know, we can't rely sometimes on the network, but however, we hope things will be okay throughout the day. So there is a line of program organized for the Sanghamita full moon day today, and we will be hearing a lot about it. So first of all, after observing the 8 precepts, it is important to worship the Buddha, and therefore we are now going to worship the Buddha before we begin our other observance programs. So thank you for joining with us. Let us worship the Buddha together. Namo tassa භගවතු අරහතු සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතු සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතු සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස ඉතිපිසෝ භගවා අරහං සම්මා සම්බුද්ධෝ විජ්ජාචරණ සම්පන්නෝ සුගතෝ ලෝකවිදු අනුත්තරෝ පුරිස ධම්මසාරති සත්තා දේව මනුස්සානං බුද්ධෝ භගවාති බුද්ධං ජීවිත පරියන්තං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි යේච බුද්ධා අතීතා ච යේච බුද්ධා අනාගතා පච්චපන්නා ච බුද්ධා අහං වන්දාමි සබ්බදා නත්ථි මේ සරණං අඤ්ඤං බුද්ධෝ මේ සරණං වරං ඒතේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන හෝතු මේ ජය මංගලං උත්තමංගේන වන්දේහං පාදපං සවරුත්තමං බුන්දේයෝ කාලිතෝ දෝස බුද්ධෝ කමතු තං මමං ස්වාක්ඛාතෝ භගවතා ධම්මෝ සම්දිට්ඨිකෝ අකාලිකෝ ඒහි පස්සිකෝ ඕපනයිකෝ පච්චත්තං වේදිතබ්බෝ විඤ්ඤුහිති ධම්මං ජීවිත පරියන්තං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි යේච ධම්මා අතීතා ච යේච ධම්මා අනාගතා පච්චපන්නා ච ධම්මා අහං වන්දාමි සබ්බදා නත්ථි මේ සරණං අඤ්ඤං ධම්මෝ මේ සරණං වරං ඒතේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන හෝතු මේ ජය මංගලං උත්තමංගේන වන්දේහං ධම්මං ච ත්‍රිවිධං වරං ධම්මේයෝ කලිතෝ දෝස ධම්මෝ කමතු තං මමං සුපටිපන්නෝ භගවතු ශාවක සංඝෝ උජ්ජපටිපන්නෝ භගවතු ශාවක සංඝෝ ඥායපටිපන්නෝ භගවතු ශාවක සංඝෝ සාමීචි පටිපන්නෝ භගවතු ශාවක සංඝෝ යදිදං චත්තාරි පුරිස යුගානි අට්ඨ පුරිස පුග්ගලා ඒස භගවතු ශාවක සංඝෝ ආහුනේයෝ පාහුනේයෝ දක්ඛිනේයෝ අංජලි කරණීයෝ අනුත්තරං පුඤ්ඤක්ඛෙත්තං ලෝකස්සාති සංඝං ජීවිත පරියන්තං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි යේච සංඝා අතීතා ච යේච සංඝා අනාගතා පච්චපන්නා ච සංඝා අහං වන්දාමි සබ්බදා නත්ථි මේ සරණං අඤ්ඤං සංඝෝ මේ සරණං වරං ඒතේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන හෝතු මේ ජය මංගලං Uttamaṅgena vandeham Sanghañca tividhottamaṅ Sangheyo kalito doso Sangho khametu taṅ mamaṅ Kanasarappadittene dīpene tamedhaṅsina Tilokadīpaṅ sambuddhaṅ pūjayāmi tamunudaṅ Vannagandha gunopetaṅ etaṅ kusuma santatiṅ Pūjayāmi munindassa Siripada saroruhe Pujemi buddhaṅ kusumena nena Punyena mitena ca hotu mokhaṅ Pupphaṅ milayāti yathāi dhamme Kāyo tathāyāti vināsa bhāvaṅ Vandāmi cetiyaṅ sabbaṅ sabbatāni supatitthitaṅ Sāririka dhātu mahābodhiṅ buddha rūpaṅ sakalaṅ sadā Yassa mūle nisinno ve sabbāri vijayaṅ akā Atto sabbaññutaṅ sattha vande taṅ bodhipādapaṅ Ime ete mahābodhi lokanātena pūjitā Ahampi te namassāmi bodhirājā namattute Kāyena vācā cittena pamādena maya kataṅ Accayaṅ khamami bhante puripaññe tathāgata Kāyena vācā cittena pamādena maya kataṅ Accayaṅ khamami dhamma sandittika akālika Kāyena vācā cittena pamādena maya kataṅ Accayaṅ khamami saṅgha supatipanna anuttara Etāvatā ca amhehi sambhataṅ puñya sampadaṅ Sabbe devā anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhiyā Etāvatā ca amhehi sambhataṅ puñya sampadaṅ Sabbe bhūtā anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhiyā Etāvatā ca amhehi sambhataṅ puñya sampadaṅ Sabbe sattā anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhiyā Idammi ñātīnaṅ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātayo Idammi ñātīnaṅ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātayo Idammi ñātīnaṅ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātayo Imina puñya kammene māmi bāla samāgamu Sataṅ samāgamu hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā Idammi puñyaṅ āsavakkaya vahaṅ hotu Sambha dukkha pamuncatu Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So you are joining us with our Unduvap Full Moon Day Observance or Sila program. It is also known as Sangamitta day or Sangamitta Poye. And also, especially to Sri Lankan Buddhists, as I mentioned earlier, it is a significant full moon day with the arrival of the right branch of the Bodhi tree from Buddhagaya to Sri Lanka. The daughter of Emperor Ashoka, Arhant Sangamitta Theri, brought the branch to Sri Lanka, and the reverence to the Bodhi tree is one of the greatest, one of the religious ceremonies or activities in Sri Lanka. So we do have a Bodhi Puja organized today at 5:30 this evening, worshipping the Bodhi tree, and we will be broadcasting that live as well. So, with reference to the Bodhi tree, it is important to recollect the Buddha's determination, or ascetic Gautama's determination, when he sat down under the Bodhi tree, meditating, attempting with great effort to achieve enlightenment. I remember he had this great effort called the Virya. I will not stand from here unless I attain enlightenment. Even though my skin, veins, flesh dry out, I will not change my posture. Now, that is a quite significant example for us in the spiritual, shall I say, efforts to achieve enlightenment, or even to attain, to know the Dhamma properly and attain enlightenment. So it is that establishment of faith, confidence, the trust, and those words of the ascetic Gautama are a great symbol of his confidence to sit under the Bodhi tree and meditate. So, for spiritual advancement, we need the confidence, and in Pali, we call it saddha, the trust. So today you are committing yourself to participate in a day's program, and you trust that it will support your spiritual advancement, or or what we call spiritual development, to maintain that effort, not to allow temptations, not to allow excuses, or even perhaps certain logic to come by your way. As you can see, once we develop that confidence, we have the determination, the virya, to maintain your sila, because sila is quite important. Sile patithaya narosapanyo. As you know, we are of two phenomena, mind and body, and as I always remind you, the body is physical, mind is immaterial. We can start developing our freedom, or chaga, or nekkhamma, the freedom of renouncing through our bodily desires that we may have. So the temptations that we seek entertainment, or we seek happiness through our sensory experiences, is what we try to maintain control of by observing precepts. The physical and verbal restraint is quite important for the advancement of your mind or spiritual development. So after saddha, we need to maintain sila. Then only it will be quite easy for us to maintain control of our mind. So chaga, because the immaterial mind is very hard to control, or even to keep under, or to keep focused, one-pointed. So as much as the body is needed to be in control, so we need to also think of how to maintain your mindset. The sensory experiences might come under control through sila for the day, but also to establish that through or the mind control, or to actually maintain the mindfulness, maintain one-pointedness, either sati or samadhi. For both of that we need virya. We need to be mindful of the ways the mind works, to renounce the interest that the mind can be in, or the pursuit of desires or desiring thoughts involving the past, or even involving the future moments that we plan. So it is quite important to work on this mind, and therefore the practice of release, nekkhamma or chaga, becomes the next place or next step of spiritual, or next essential for our spiritual advancement. Confidence as saddha, morality as sila, and renouncing as chaga, and then only we can develop panya, which is the most important perhaps to achieve enlightenment. And where there is stillness, where there is mindfulness, there is wisdom, because we can be in the present moment without involving ourselves with the changing natures of not just the physical world or physical sphere, but also our mental thoughts, that we always forget that there are also changing. The sankharas, the conditioning thoughts that we are always involved with, has the nature of change, and we will therefore develop this practice of letting go and not grasping those changing thoughts, not holding on to them. That's why the Buddha said, in essence, the suffering or unhappiness is the grasping of these five aggregates that we develop through the conditioning factors around us, and our conditioning mind should also be able to develop the ability to free ourselves from those, and therefore it is important to have those four factors of spiritual advancement, or four essentials or foundations of spiritual practice. So bear this in mind today when you when you have observed these 8 precepts, and develop this confidence, the trust, that you are truly in the right path, and you are developing this, and whatever you practice today is contributing for your spiritual advancement, or for your attainment of enlightenment in future. So saddha, sila, chaga, panya. So that is quite important to bear. So let us be determined today to practice the Dhamma. This is the last full moon day for the year. So practice the Dhamma properly and continue to engage in the Dhammas. After meditation from Ajahn Sujan, Venerable Sujan from Aberdeen, we will have Buddha Puja and your lunch. And at 12:15 we'll be chanting the Bojjhanga Suttas and the Girimana Sutta, blessing everyone with good health and happiness, especially during this time of difficulty. You can bear in your thoughts your loved ones, also wishing them speedy recovery if they are ill. So let us join together as an online community and develop this metta or loving thoughts, chanting those suttas, wishing everyone good health and happiness as well. And then do continue to participate in our religious observance throughout the day. At 5:30 we also have a Bodhi Puja, and our regular program towards the end of the day we'll finish off with the puja and meditation at 7 o'clock. So thank you for joining with us. I am now going to invite Ajahn Sujan, so please bear with us for 2 minutes.
Namatu Ratana Tayasa. May I pay homage to triple them, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. And also my humble respect goes to Venerable Sumana, my brother monk, who's the chief abbot of London Mindfulness Meditation Center. Today I'm invited to lead the meditation and give a short introduction and guided meditation on the meditation. So and today is a full moon day, which is again the very last full moon day of the year. And in a few days' time, we will be entering to new year. It's called 2021 or 2021. And normally, we will have a lot of excitements during this time of a new year, and we'll be planning for so many parties and gatherings and entertainments. And we like to be engaged, and we like to be part of attending the parties. But unfortunately, this year, we are not able to attend or organize these events, and we will not be able to join. That's why there's always uncertainty that we come across every day, every life. And it's always challenging. In normal days, although we do not know or do not realize that how challenging our life is, but in fact, every day is a challenge. Even just to wake up in the morning, it's very difficult for so many people. And even just waking up in the morning is as like a new life. So our life is like one of the very difficult exam that we have, that we all have to go through, regardless of what. And this exam, we are looking for something. We are hoping to achieve something. And as a result of that, we've been wandering around, running around with the absence of mind, like a headless chicken. Or another simile that I can think of is the hamster wheel. So we're running so much, running all around. And this running never stopped. And that's so simply with the thought of achieving something. And along the way, we come across with the experience of different emotions, different feelings, all that triggered by different environments that we are in. Sometimes We experience joy, happiness. Other times become angry, sad, and a feeling of a rejected, feeling of a lonely, feeling of a fear. These kind of a different types of a different emotions, we are always having it. And this is simply because they are full of stimulations, and that triggers these emotions. Sometimes it triggers by seeing good things, nice things. Other time want to hear. Other time want to smell or want to have a good taste. And sometimes other time want to have a comfortable life. And with this, the trigger is simply triggering our emotions, and always triggered by those stimuli. And on the basis of that, we have changed our emotions. We are changing our emotions. And it's up to individual that how one can understand those triggers, an ability to deal with that triggers. Someone who can deal with the triggers, the emotions and the feelings, they can be happy in every situation, doesn't matter. Another time, other people are very sensitive and unable to deal with even small triggers. And with that triggering, always bringing, in a way, mostly unhappiness. And we have unhappiness, memories of unhappiness. So we cannot avoid triggering or the stimuli. We cannot stop having any thing that conditions to trigger us. But what we can do next is our choice, that we can stop or we can choose to do. So we can stop is what happening in the next. It's up to us whether to start stressing and having a stressful and emotional, um, or start living, so-called, either stop stressing or either or start living. And now it's entirely up to us. And as we know that living in the past or in the future always brings this stimulus more power. Like if we are living in the past, then we will have emotions such like guilt and regret. We'll be talking such as like, I should have done this, or I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done that. And this form of a guilt and a regret always will be there because we are wandering in the past. And meanwhile, when we are thinking about the future, then that brings fear and worry. And that fear and worry is, what if this happens? And what if that doesn't happen? Now, what if that this happens? Then basically we bringing so much fear and worries, and then again so many expectations that we have. We again go on thinking that what will happen if it doesn't happen. And that's the Buddha said, apiyehi sampayoko dukho. All what we need to understand this that the happening of this, whether we are in this state of a guilt, or in the state of regret or fear or worry, and which is the main root cause of anxiety, a root cause of a stress. And Harvard University had a research and said that majority of us are thinking, and because of that thinking mind, we are not mindful. And because of not mindful of what we are doing at that very moment, we are unhappy. So because of the thinking of so many things, we do not know what we are thinking of is the cause for the stress and other problems. And that's simply because we are looking two sides at all the time, rather than looking at things at the way as they are. The simile, the beautiful simile that even I quoted yesterday in our monthly practice of meditation, that is a glass with a half full water, and it's entirely up to us. How do we interpret that? Whether we become very upset that the glass is not full enough, or why someone has put the water in this glass half water. So we need to see the clear mind. Mindfulness basically teach us to see the clarity, the exactly what it is. Doesn't matter whether it is half full or half empty. The matter is that the way we change, how we perceive, how we choose to react, how we choose to know that. And that is basically, in a middle way, it's called the glass has got the water, but not full, or not empty. Yeah? So this way, then we will be living in a happy moment, happy life. And now happiness we all seek for. And this happiness we are always trying to depend on external objects, the objects accumulation of material things, or association with the loved ones like the family. But these are always perishable. They won't stay with us all the time. So the happiness that we are looking for, it should be coming from inside, and that happiness is knowing what it is in the present moment, rather than seeing the half empty and half full. We're seeing that there is a water but not full glass. So that's why the mindfulness meditation is the skill of a happiness. And I say this skills for the happiness is because every skills you have to learn, every skills you have to try and do it again and again until you become skilled in it. That's why it's called skills. And you're able to use it whenever you need it. And it is also it's a cultivation process which unfolds and deepens over time. So that's why the continuously doing is so important in the practice of a meditation. That's why it's called anupassana, doing it again and again, repeatedly doing again, revisiting again and again. Now, I believe that you have been practicing meditation or you have been hearing a meditation. And there will be a basic fundamental teachings of the meditation is about watching the breath or what bodily contemplation, observation of the feeling, observation of emotion, and observation of a phenomena. So which is called Kaya Nupassana, Vedana Nupassana, Chitta Nupassana, and then Dhamma Nupassana. So Anupassana, visiting, revisiting again and again. And I believe that everyone knows about it, and we have heard about it, we have practiced about it. But over the period of a time, if you notice, whoever masters are teaching meditation, they will be teaching on the basis of this fundamental. There is no magic wand that once you have touched, then you are enlightened. No such things in the practice. So that's why there is a group of people always looking for the guidance and looking for the new ways of a practice of a meditation, and always wanting, learning, wanting to know new things in the practice. But if you look at carefully, and if you've been practicing diligently, ardently, persistently, then you will realize that, in fact, all these greater knowledge or understanding about the whole Buddhism is it lies on the fundamental basics of calming the mind, knowing the mind, understanding the mind. And this starts from knowing this mind and the body. And as we know that our life is a combination of a mind and a body, and we spend a lot of time contemplating on the body, using this body as a main object of meditation. But end of the day, this is just a vehicle. Body is just a vehicle to see things, rest of others. Now, it doesn't matter where we start to contemplate. Doesn't matter how we start meditating. The matter is doing. That's why it's called just do it. Matter is doing. And when we are practicing again, we are not making it to a big fuss that I need to be sitting in this way, I need to be wearing this cloth, I need to be in front of this statue, this direction and that direction. No. Any direction, any position, any cloth that is comfortable is fine. And you can practice that. And any objects that we have chosen to practice, and skills here is we are paying attention to that object. And when we are paying attention to that object again and again, so that's what's called the modern translation for the sati, the mindfulness, is called paying attention to in a particular way on purpose in the present moment without any adjustments. So here we are paying attention to that object. and that brings the samadhi. So you are mindful, the sati, you are mindful of the object. That brings the samadhi. And here, mindful or awareness or mindful doesn't mean any specific thing. Anything that you pay attention to it is mindfulness. That each time, each moment when you have a mindfulness of that object, you have samadhi, a concentration. So sati and samadhi works together, comes hand in hand. It's inseparable. When we are not mindful, there is no concentration. And this concentration again helps to have the mindfulness. So these two works interrelated. In order to pay attention to one object, so you have to have a concentrated mind. And very moment when you concentrate on the object, in that moment you got the mindfulness. And each time when you are mindful, you are in the present moment. You can't be mindful of something in the past or something in the future. Although you are thinking about the past or although you are worrying about the future, that incident is happening here and now. And simply you are paying attention to that object, that thought, which is happening here and now. And you are mindful of that object, and that brings the samadhi. And that's how you will be getting progress on the samadhi, on the practice of a meditation. And as when we are paying attention to on that particular object, again, we are not overlooking it. We are not just watching it and pass it away. We have a purpose. So we are watching it. And that's why, if you look at the Anapanasati, says, know that you are. So you are consciously aware of it, mentally making a note of it, that what's happening. Mentally making a note of that, what is happening. So that's why noting is very important, which will blocks the rest of other defilements to creep in. And this noting moment, again, you're consciously making a note of the present moment, what is happening at that very moment. And that moment, we are not having any other thoughts. And this way of a practice is known as Samma Sati. Yeah, Samma Sati. Now remember, Samma Sati is not the completion of all the teachings, all the practice. According to the Buddha's teachings, now we know that the Buddha's teachings is the Four Noble Truths, which is suffering, which is called dukkha, and cause of suffering, which is called samudaya, and the cessation of the suffering, which is known as the nirodha, and the last, the way leading to the end of a cessation. And in the last part of this the way leading to the end of suffering is known as Eightfold Noble Path, or Magga. In that Magga, there are 8 factors. The first one is a right view. Second one is a right thought. Third, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So here, right mindfulness or samma sati comes as a seventh factor. And this seventh factor, again, it's in the middle between right effort and right concentration. And these three factors known as bhavana or concentration or samadhi. Yeah, bhavana means developing or cultivation. So in order to cultivate, we have to have a right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So that's why right mindfulness is not complete, but there are other factors. However, we are concentrating only on the right mindfulness. Now, when we say samma sati, which is right mindfulness, samma here means a right or virtuous or wholesome. And sati is the English is a Pali word, and its root meaning is to remember. And in a way that, as a mental factor, that means a presence of mind, an attentiveness in the present moment, or awareness, or having a wakeful mind, or a heedfulness. And the definition is given for the sati as basically like an observing power, or the power to observe things attentively in this very moment. It has a character of not wobbling. And not wobbling here is like not floating along the way, along the thought processes, not going along with the thoughts. I normally use the simile of when watching the river flow. You're sitting at the bank of the river watching the river flow. Do not intervene with the water flow. And then whatever comes, do not follow or do not go along with that. So another simile is given. It's like a hollow pumpkin floating along the water. Do not let your consciousness or your sati to be like that. And a second factor, second, it's called the functioning of this sati or the mindfulness, is there is no confusion. There is no forgetful. It's called asammosaya rasa. Asammosaya rasa. Okay? And this is the non-absence of this confusion. So of the absence of a confusion or non-forgetful. And here, whatever object that you have chosen to pay attention to, whether the breath, whether the crystals, or verbalizing the names, or abdominal rising, falling, or colors and crystals, whatever you have chosen, your mind is always conscious about that object. Your mind is always clear about that object. You're consciously aware of it at all the time, and there is no confusion. And here, as we have this non-forgetful state of the mind, what happens is that our consciousness will come to face with the object. It's called a manifestation of the sati, is basically coming to face with the object. Whatever is happening, you know at that time. Breathing in, breathing out, rising, falling, you're face to face with it at all the time. And then, when you are aware of that face to face as it is happening on the spot, as it is, when you are consciously naming it or noting it, it will protect from any outsider to come in. So that's the maras, or the kilesas coming in. That's why in the practice of insight meditation, when you are observing incoming breath or outgoing breath or a rising, falling of abdomen, you have to have this noting mind. So consciously you are making a mental note of that object. Suppose rising, falling. So as breathe in, it rises, as breathe out, it falls. At that moment, you need to make a conscious noting. When it is rising, making a mental note of a rising, rising, rising. When it falls, making a mental note of falling, falling, and falling. What this consciously making a mental note does is that it protects, basically it's like a you are taping holes where it can where the other insect can come in. So our mind is so vulnerable, our mind is so active that even a small bit of a space that we are unaware of it, the immediately other thoughts will just creep in. The past or the future thoughts will just creeping in. It just comes in and take control over us. Okay? So that's why this making a mental note always protects from any invasions. Okay? Any invasions. And then by having that, what happens is that we will have practiced the first Vikayanupassana along with the rest of other things will gradually come in. So that's why when we look at the Satipatthana Sutta, when we are come to face to the object, what's arising in this very moment, in the present moment, that moment, we are all cleansing. We are overcoming our sorrow and lamentations. And then that moment also, because of our mind is concentrated on an object, the pain and other discomfortness also disappears for some times. And we'll realize that, this is the path, this is the one. So that's why in Satipatthana Sutta, Buddha said the benefit of the practice of a Satipatthana is that Sattanang Visuddhiya, for the purification of our beings, and then overcoming of a sorrow and lamentation and disappearance of a pain and a dejections and acquiring of the true method that leads to the realization of a Nibbana. And this practice is known as a Satipatthana. And in Satipatthana, what we normally do is contemplation, body as the body, feeling as the feeling, mind as the mind, and Dhamma as the Dhamma, the phenomena. And in a way, with how we do is being urgently, attentively there, and seeing clearly and knowing what's going on, and mind is at present there. And by doing so, all the triggering stimulation that is triggering our emotions, upsets and joy and unhappiness and things, and also unhappiness, sadness, fear, and the worries, and these things will simply subside, and we become aware of those, and we will be able to choose what to do. And that's why practice of a meditation is a skill that it makes us the boss to choose to react or non-react, and this makes us happy or unhappiness. And in a practice, obviously, we have to have an object to practice, and normally I lead with the breathing meditation or the rising falling of abdomen, and in doing so, contemplating on a body and aware of the feelings and how we react, and the rest will unfold. So with this in mind, now I will lead you to the meditation. So I would invite you all to sit in a comfortable position, and that's a comfortable, whether you are sitting on a chair or whether you are sitting on a floor, and whichever state you are in, making sure that you are comfortable and less distractions, and checking your motivation of joining this online community on the occasion of a full moon day that organized by mindfulness London Mindfulness Meditation Center on this Sumanna. And with this in mind, relax the entire body. You may close your eyes. And with the sound of a gong like this, I will be guiding you through. So sitting comfortably, you may close your eyes. And bring your attention to the present moment awareness, the body sitting here and now. Aware of entire body sitting and smiling to yourself. Experiencing this blissful moment, a quiet peace. We have a faith and a confidence in the teachings in this practice. So that's why we are all gathering here, observing a sila, sacrificing some of our luxuries, comforts, with a hope to attain calmness and wisdom. How wonderful this morning, sitting, enjoying, listening. Smiling to yourself with this great wholesome action that you have done to you. And as you are aware of the entire body sitting, paying attention to the entire body with undivided attention, and observe that what's happening in this entire body. Let go of your preconcept of the meditation at the moment, and do not try to go to any particular place to start off, whether to the incoming breath and outgoing breath at the nose or the rising falling of abdomen. So leave all the preconcept of a meditation and experience this entire body, just sitting here and now, and observing what form or what sort of activity is going on within this body. Not by thinking, but by feeling. That's why in Chinese says, mindfulness is the presentness of the heart. So by feeling what's going on in your body, as you're sitting comfortably here with undivided attention, with your intention, watching, observing what's going on. And you will realize that there are some form of activities are taking place. Different kinds of sensations are there. And these activities and sensations that you can observe is due to the incoming breath and outgoing breath. Now remember, you do not go to the nose immediately. Feel for yourself. So spend time observing those sensations in your body. So knowing those sensations as they are. And the second stage is why those sensations are there is because the breath, incoming and outgoing, a natural breath, normal breath. And each time when you observe those sensations, that moment you are mindful of that. And with that you have a concentration. So spend some times observing the bodily sensations and due to the incoming breath and outgoing breath and where you feel the most and what is happening and where you feel the most. And when we practice, we able to understand that most obvious movements and or we become mindful of these activities are in our nose or in our belly, rising, falling. These are the two places where we can feel the incoming breath and outgoing breath the most. And whichever one you feel comfortable, whichever one you feel more empirical and easy to observe, so pay attention to on that. Use that as a primary object of a concentration. So spend your time observing that object, concentrating. At that moment, immediately when you have chosen, there is a tendency that the mind can make it or change it, hold it by making a breathe long or short. But do not do that. Natural breath, normal breath. So spend some time observing that. Spend some time concentrating on it, just to get your mind concentrated. So this moment, you are aware and you know what's happening. Incoming breath, outgoing breath, you know that. Incoming and outgoing. Or rising, falling. Now next is observing the different activities within the rising, falling, or incoming and outgoing of the breath. Sometimes you may feel incoming breath is longer, outgoing is shorter. Other time you may feel incoming is short, outgoing is long. Rising, falling as also too. Sometimes rising and falling can be different, longer or shorter. Observing it. And this stays, you're making a mental note. So consciously aware of it and making a mental note that it is rising, it is falling, it is breathing in and breathing out, breathing in and out, longer or shorter. So rising, falling, in and out. Making a mental note of each thing. Remember, mental note and the activity should be synchronized, not like rising and you are making a mental note of a falling. You have to come across with the face to face. You have to come to face with the object and making a mental note. Rising, falling, or in and out. Breathing in, breathing out. At this moment, you may experience some itchiness or a pain in your body. Some meditation teachers may guide you saying, do not move, or some would say, move as you like. But in my understanding and my practice, moving doesn't help to cultivate our mind. We are practicing meditation to cultivate the mind. We're working with the mind. So sitting still and watching the desire, this feeling, and not moving helps to recognize this mind more deeply. Having said that, if it's really severe, you do allow or you can change your posture. Otherwise, learn from that pain, learn from that sensations. Thoughts, obviously, if we are not trained, then we lost into the thoughts very easily. In that case, again, do not blame yourself or do not go into the conversation. Simply know that my mind is distracted into the thoughts. Recognizing that and simply bring it back. I normally use the words observing that my mind is distracted, acknowledging that distracted mind, making a mental note that my mind is distracted, like thinking, and let go of that distraction and come back to the moment. So ardently practicing, knowing clearly whatever is happening. If your mind is mindful of the object that you are intended to observe, or any other sensations, any other thoughts, clearly knowing and being a mindful, do not lost into the thoughts, memories, or worries. This is the most precious time that you have awareness of this body and the mind in the present moment, here and now. Do not wish for any pleasant sensations, or do not wish not to experience any unpleasant sensations. Do not wish any, but be mindful of all without any expectations, accepting whatever is happening, knowing and seeing. Now bring your attention to be mindful of all the sensations in your body, observing whatever sensations are there. And bring your attention to your hands, aware of sensations in your hands. Whatever sensations are there, the heat, cold, softness, hardness, and bring that attention to your heart, feeling the beating heart. And again, revisit the entire body and observe the phenomena that is taking place. Whatever the heat, the cold, softness, hardness in your entire body as a whole. The practice of a meditation, the more we become mindful of the objects that is occurring in the present moment, an ability to come to face and consciously making mental notes prevents from arising of unwholesome qualities. And also, because we are mindful and we're conscious about each thing that is happening, it helps to abandon any evil thoughts, any actions that we perform, or any words that we speak, because our mind is always in the present moment awareness, aware of the objects within the body. And automatically the wholesome qualities develops, because mind is a pure, mind is calm, mind is devoid of any evil thoughts, and there is no way that any evil defilements will creep in, because consciously making a mental note. And it develops the mental strength. It's called the mind power. power to be, and the mind becomes stronger. An ability to observe things the way they are. These moments we may develop or may have seen, may have experienced it. But we have to maintain it. Maintain the practice or continuation of the practice is the key for the success. You may be able to settle down on your breath as a primary object, making sure that you can be mindful of that. But do not be absorbed into the one object. There's so many other stimuli still wandering around. The sound that you hear, the smell that you smell, the touch of the air. So whenever mind drifts to those objects, leave the primary object and observe them as an object of a concentration, object of a mindfulness meditation. We are not fixing our mind on any object for a good. That's our desire. We are fixing our mind on that object simply as a foundation to see things truly are. So we are standing on that foundation and watching, observing attentively any other objects arises. The more we become mindful, it helps us to see the truth about our own self, helps to develop the wisdom, understanding that these are changing. Our emotions are changing, feelings are changing, our perceptions are changing. Inability to understand this change or accept this change brings the suffering and disappointments. With the practice, we realize that every little things are changing. Breath changes, our perception to the breath changes. Mindfulness of each things are changing constantly. And one who can see these as the way it is, known as the wise one, worthy one. And mindfulness also helps us to remind that we need to live a virtuous life at least of a practicing of a 5 precepts. So observe that the at least of a 5 precepts is not only safeguarding to oneself, but also safeguarding to others. So mindfulness is the great assistant in our life that we all need in our day-to-day life. It helps us not to forget even the little things that we do in our day-to-day life. And less mistakes and less accidents, because everything that we are performing, we perform with the mindfulness and awareness. And it is not just the physical activities that we come to know, but also ability to understand that what's going on in our mind. And there is no distracting thoughts. When there is less distraction, according to the research in America shows that people tend to be more happier. And it helps to good performance in any career that we are in, ability to pay undivided attention on the work that we are doing. Helps us to understand what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is evil. As the sati becomes stronger and established, it brings the wisdom, an ability to accept the change and not to be attached to the world. It is also a form of good, wholesome cultivation. It is beneficial for one to be not to be attached to all the things. Helps us to be alert, awake, and attentive in our life. So with this in mind, I would like to end by the transferring of merits that we normally do in the morning in our center here in Aberdeen, Varapunya Meditation Center. We normally do the chanting in the early morning, 7 o'clock, after an hour of meditation. And in the evening, we also have a chanting. At 7 o'clock, after half an hour of Dhamma talk, 6:30, and then half an hour of chanting. We have a meditation session. Apart from that, in our center, we have monthly meditation gatherings, and most of them are available on our YouTube too. If you would like to practice different meditations and instructions, you can go to our YouTube channel, Varapunya Buddhist Meditation Center. So I end with this transference of merit. May the Devas dwelling in the temple, here and there in the stupa, the building, the Bodhi tree enclosure, be honored with the gift of Dhamma. May they bring about well-being here in the elders, intermediate and new monk, temple attendants, donor, lay followers, towns, cities, and principalities. May all sentient beings be happy, whether born from a womb, from an egg, from spleen, or spontaneously arising. May they all independence on the foremost Dhamma for leading out, make an end to suffering and stress. May the Dhamma stand firm for long, along with those individuals who maintain it. May the Sangha live in harmony for our welfare and benefit. May the true Dhamma protect us, together with all who practice the Dhamma. May we flourish in the Dhamma taught by the noble ones. May all beings have faith in the Buddha's teachings. May rain fall in season in moderate streams. May it lead the prosperous earth to the flourishing of living beings, just as mother and father always protect their own children. In the same way, may the government always protect its citizens with righteousness. With this, on, on this auspicious occasion of the full moon day, the end of this year, which in few days we will be celebrating New Year. May you all be well and happy. May all your good wishes come true. May you be successful. May you have a good vision that leads to the ultimate goal of a Nibbana at the end. May you all be well and Happy New Year. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Venerable Ajahn Suchan, my monk brother, who from all the way from Aberdeen spent a long time with us, guiding us in meditation and also talking to us as usual. Despite his heavy schedule, he has been very kindly attending to our request and made this moment available for you. So thank you, Achan. May you also have good health, happiness, success and prosperity. May the merit accumulated by all good deeds today be conducive for your well-being, for your good health. May you be able to continue the Dhammadutta services that you have been doing, and we look forward to many, many more opportunities like this. So sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we are now continuing with our Buddha Puja. So we take about 5 minutes break so that we can then begin our Buddha Puja. Bante? Okay.
Bante?
Thank you.
Fix Zola?
Okay.
Fix Zola? Link shape, you know. Okay. Azura. Okay, it suits me out as well. Okay, Joe fantastic. Oh, kun data पे हुए रंगला some Sri Lankan एक वर्ष देंगला वे मखा थम्स का वे रगा था नहीं Judah. Juga penting lah. Pas wanda nih. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good evening, good afternoon. Well, in fact, good morning. So, now, today you have been joining with us with our Unduvap Full Moon Poet Day celebrations. The morning hour was spent by observing 8 precepts and meditating. We had the gracious support of Ajahn Sujan a few moments ago, guiding us, conducting the meditation session, guiding us in meditation, and it was a great session. So we are grateful for his contribution to this session this morning. Now we are going to do Buddha Puja, and so that you can, those who have observed 8 precepts can have dana. So today, if it was not due to lockdown, we would actually have been getting together at the temple, observing precepts, and then as we have sponsors for the Upasaka Dana, unfortunately you are participating from home, so we have today the regular sponsor who had actually taken the onus to take the sponsorship, have brought Dana to the temple, DB Rasika and HM Somali, so Mr. and Mrs. Rasika and Somali brought and offered the Dana to the temple and now are participating from home. So their intention is to share merit with Mr. Rasika's beloved departed mother, K. Chandra, and also grandmother, U. Yasavati. So may they both receive our blessings accumulated by the sponsorship and the Buddha Puja, and also the Dana offering. May their sansaric life be happy. May they be happy and peaceful wherever they are. May they make their lives happy, and ultimately may they attain the blissful state of Nibbana. So we would like to bear that in our mind when we make the offering today. After Dana, we are going to chant at 12:15 the Bojjhanga Suttas and the Girimananda Sutta, especially blessing everyone, you as an online community, your loved ones, and also the world with good health and happiness. May everyone affected by the pandemic be happy in a sense by recovering if they have been affected. May they stay safe by the blessings of the Buddha. So we are going to do the chanting later on, and after that we will have our regular talks organized as scheduled with Sister Karuna Manian followed by Dhamma Desana in Sinhala by Professor Nepale Sankitcha, professor at the Lumbini University in Lumbini, and later on we will have tea. So we will then again listen to Sister Ratna Manian, followed by Venerable Nepali Panya Ratana, who will also be talking to us from Nepal. He is the lecturer at the Theravada Buddhist Academy in Kathmandu. After that, at 5:30, we will hold Bodhi Puja, especially to celebrate the arrival of the Bodhi branch in Sri Lanka on a full moon day as such today. So that Bodhi Puja will be conducted by Venerable Sugata Ratana. So Tissapura Sugata Ratana from Liverpool. He is the resident, but he is the in charge of the Sri Sambuddha Vihara in Liverpool. So do join us in the subsequent programs if you are free. However, now let us engage in our itemized scheduled program, worshipping the Buddha, before we partake our lunch. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahatu samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahatu samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Itipiso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vijjacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhamma sarathi sattha deva manussanam Buddho bhagavati swakhato bhagavata dhammo sandittiko akaliko ehi passiko openaiko paccattam veditabbo vinyuhiti Supatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho ujupatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Nyaya patipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Samici patipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Yadidang chattari purisa yugani attha purisa puggala Esa bhagavato savaka sangho Ahuneyo pahuneyo dakhineyo anjali karaniyo Anuttarang punyakhetang lokassati Kanasarappadittena deepena tamadhansina Tilokadipang sambuddhang pujayami tamonudang Vannagandhe gunopetang etang kusuma santating Pujayami munindassa siripada saroruhe Pujemi buddhang kusumena nina punyena metena ca hotu mokkang Puppang milayati yathai dhamme Kayo tathayati vinasa bhavang Adhivase tuno bhante paniyang parikappitang Anukampang upadaya patiganhatu uttama Adhivase tuno bhante bhojanang parikappitang Anukampang upadaya patiganhatu uttama adhivasetu no bhante bhojanam parikappitam anukampam upadaya patiganhatu uttama adhivasetu no bhante sabbang saddhaya pujitam anukampam upadaya patiganhatu uttama vandami cetiyang sabbang sabbathani supatitthitang saririka dhatu mahabodhing buddha rupang sakalang sada yassa mule nisinno ve sabbari vijayang aka patto sabbanyutang sattha vande tang bodhipadapang ime ete mahabodhi lokanatena pujita ahampite namassami bodhiraja namattute kayena vaca cittena pamadena maya katang acchayang khamame bhante bhuripanye tathagata kayena vaca cittena pamadena maya katang acchayang khamame dhamma sanditthika akalika kayena vaca cittena pamadena maya katang acchayang khamame sangha supatipanna anuttara ettavataca amhehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya ettavataca amhehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya ettavataca amhehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya idamme ñātīnaṁ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātayo idamme ñātīnaṁ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātayo idamme ñātīnaṁ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātayo imina punya kammine mami bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya idamme punyang asavakkaya vahang hotu samba dukkha pamuncatu sadhu sadhu sadhu. So may all merit accumulated by offering the dana, by observing precepts, by listening to Dhamma talks and worshipping the Buddha. May the beloved mother of Rasika, K. Chandra, and also grandmother, U. Yasavati, and also may all other relatives who may have passed away in their families, their sponsors, Mr. D.B. Rasika and Mrs. H.M. Sumali, would like to share merit with. So we also joined with Indira Vijay Singha, who also co-sponsored the Upasaka Dana or Dana today at the Vihara. So may all merit accumulated be conducive for the well-being of the beloved departed family members. May their sansaric life be happy and peaceful. Eventually may they attain the blissful state of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So do join us after 1 hour. So 12:15 we will do our chanting, blessing everyone with good health and happiness. So after dana, instead of obviously feeling drowsy, we can join us in the chanting. So therefore I have scheduled that for that reason as well. So do join us later on at 1 hour, 12:15. So have a very good lunch. So do eat mindfully. Thank you.